baby. Well, since losing to a game show host in the most eminently winnable election probably in American history, obviously the Democrats are not very happy about what has happened over the last few weeks. And I think we all knew this was going to happen. Those of us who told you years ago that Joe Biden's brains were oatmeal, basically. Now the blame game has started. Nancy Pelosi has come out. She's blaming Joe Biden for staying in the race too long before she forced him out. And you sort of have this war within the Democratic Party where Kamala's people and the sort of much of the corporate wing of the Democratic Party are blaming Joe Biden. They are saying, look, dude, you should have dropped out of the race sooner. And so this is all coming out now. Nancy Pelosi did a interview just this week where she just takes, she sort of, in the most political way that she could, sort of places the blame on Joe Biden. And she actually had a lot to say about these comments from Bernie Sanders, which sounds a lot about like what I've been saying about the Democratic Party for a long time. Matter of fact, since I've been at WLTH.
This country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality. And what Donald Trump did is provided an explanation. He went around, he said, I know you're angry, and the reason is that zillions of illegal immigrants are coming over, and they're eating your cats and dogs and everything else. That's the reason. Well, obviously, that is not the reason. The reason is, in my view, that we have an unprecedented level of corporate greed today, more income and wealth inequality, and people on top want it all. And we need an agenda that says to the working class, we're going to take on these powerful special interests and create an economy and a government that works for you. And by the way, that can't happen unless you get big money out of politics. We got to get rid of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision so billionaires do not continue to buy elections.
Yep. So that's Bernie Sanders doing his I told you so. That I think any of us who've actually been paying attention over the recent years has been saying, sort of screaming from the mountaintops about the modern Democratic Party being taken over by the rich elite donor class. I've told you guys many times before that the Democrats now control 90% of the richest congressional districts in America. 90%. Money. Yes, money. They also, Kamala Harris had more billionaires supporting her than Donald Trump did, which is quite an accomplishment. She had 83 billionaires supporting her, including some big names like Bill Gates, who we talked about, gave her $50 million. George Soros, who bought up a bunch of radio stations right before the election to try to influence the vote for Kamala. People like Reid Hoffman, Mark Cuban, who became one of her surrogates and got in some trouble when he said that he sort of in their minds disrespected a lot of the women who support Donald Trump by saying he doesn't like strong women around him. We're going to get into some of Trump's cabinet picks later on. I don't necessarily think that's an argument that will hold up ultimately, but we'll get to that later on. But yes, the Democrats have indeed become the party of the wealthy elites, the richest parts of the country. That's exactly flipped from how it was when I was growing up. The Democrats took pride in being the party of the working class, the poor. And so now the Democrats has a shrinking coalition. Their coalition is basically uppity rich white people and the sort of colored people who love them, you know, sort of the metropolitan elites, and scared black people. Because unscared black people, we left the Democratic Party a long time ago. Hispanics are leaving in droves. Asians, 2/3 of Native Americans, I didn't see that coming. 2/3 of Native Americans voted for Donald Trump, which is shocking. So they have a shrinking base. They actually have a shrinking base, and they're sort of freaking out like, what do we do about this? How do we deal with the shrinking base? So, I mean, obviously now they are, there's a lot of hand-wringing. I mean, I listened to this from Joe Scarborough and Al Sharpton, which it just shows you that a lot of these people just don't get it.
Quickly, too, Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men.
Right.
It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States. You know, the Democratic Party, I've always found when you're sitting around talking, they love to just sort of balkanize everybody into these separate groups and say, oh, white people don't like women and black people. No, it is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You got some that don't like each other. And some of the most misogynist things I've heard going on this Get Out the Vote tour came from black men. I mean, misogynist things. So you're absolutely right. It's not simplistic. And we've got to have real honest conversations about it.
Real honest conversations.
He does know that Mexico just elected a woman, right? They know that, right? Mexico literally, just about a month ago, elected a woman, Claudia Sheinbaum, and guess who her opponent was? Another woman. The woman, both parties' candidates were women. Mexico's doing better than us. Mexico had a black president in the 1830s. His name was Vicente Guerrero. We talked about him on this show. Now, I'm not saying that the Hispanic community doesn't have some real racism. I've talked about that before. Latin America is one of the most racist places in the world. Okay? We talked about how Argentina literally purged its black population. We talked about how a lot of the Nazis and Confederates ended up in places like Brazil and Argentina after they lost the Civil War and lost in World War II. We those things are well known already. But again, a lot of this sort of shifting blame is about trying to take the focus off what the truth is. Hillary Clinton dominated the Hispanic male vote. Hillary Clinton dominated the Hispanic vote by a lot more than Joe Biden did. And to me, this is once again a lot of Democrats not wanting to look in the mirror. Why did Hillary Clinton do better with black men? Why did Hillary Clinton do better with Hispanic men than Joe Biden did? Hillary Clinton did better with black men and Hispanic men than Joe Biden did. Hillary Clinton did better with black women than Kamala Harris did. So again, we're playing the blame game is going off the hook here. Let's get some of these calls here. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. What's up? Can you hear me? Let me get this other caller. Hello, caller. And Eden hung. Well, okay, both callers have apparently having an issue getting through. Call back, see if we can hook back up. But as I said, Hillary Clinton did better with black men, black women, Hispanic men, Hispanic women than Kamala Harris did, and Joe Biden. What we've seen is, and I talked about this last week, a hemorrhaging of votes from the Democratic Party post Barack Obama. Let's see if we get this. Hello, caller. What's up?
Okay, Scott.
What's up?
I know you think Mexico had their black president back in what, the 1800s?
1830s.
Okay. This country, the United States, had black presidents back in the 1700s.
Okay, but we're not talking about that right now. I know you're talking about, but back in the Federalist days. But thank you for the call. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Dick Gregory used to talk about that all the time. We have to talk about that a lot. But yeah, we'll have to talk about that at some time in the near future. But yeah, we got to stay on track. Like I said, it's already 6:21. We gotta stay on topic here. But as I was saying, Mexico had their two presidential candidates were women. The numbers say that Hillary Clinton did a lot better with Hispanic men, Hispanic women, black men, black women than Kamala Harris did. Kamala Harris is missing about 10 million votes from Joe Biden. 10 million votes from Joe Biden. And now, we have the liberals and the colored people who love them. They're in the election denial phase, just like the Trump people were in 2020. But as I state, last week, ratings were down by 25% across the networks. Less people are watching. Less people were tuned into the election. I think what happened was 2020 was an aberration. 2020, a lot of people were locked in their homes. A lot of people weren't able to go to work, weren't able to go to school, weren't able to see their friends, weren't able to see their families. And they voted for Joe Biden because they thought, well, maybe if we vote for Joe Biden, things will go back to normal. We don't want Trump's craziness at this moment. And now sort of the haze of the pandemic has sort of settled. A lot of people tuned back out. A lot of people just tuned back out. So a lot of those 10 million people are just people who just went back to their lives after 2020 and just aren't really as politically engaged. And Gaza, again, I can't overstate this. Gaza, the number of young people who did not vote, the level of young people, particularly in Michigan, the Arab communities and in college towns, who either didn't vote or voted for Jill Stein or Donald Trump, is staggering. Let me get this other caller. Hello, caller. What's up?
Good evening, Scott.
What's up?
Hey, Scott, do you think that, I know you mentioned about a lot of chicks are turning away. What was the woman's name who, she was part of what they call the squad?
AOC?
Yeah, she was Somalian. I forgot, I think that's the way she was. Well, she lost her. And that was the interview, and it was her own racial people that said, we got tired of the Democratic Party catering to the woke community, and they forgot about us.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that's basically what happened with a lot of the race.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with the migrants coming up, in Chicago, you got two really big Latino communities, the Village and Blue. Mm-hmm. And in both those communities, they didn't want the migrants. Mm-hmm. They blocked camps being put up. Then in Illinois, you had so many precincts that turned red from blue.
Yep.
And right there in Chicago, they told their mayor, we're going to turn Chicago red. Mm-hmm. And they basically Donald Trump got almost 47% of the vote in the state of Illinois.
Yep.
And that's been more than any other president in a year. So I think a lot of people just got tired of this woke stuff.
Yep.
They got tired of the migrants.
Yep.
And they got tired of all this money being shipped overseas.
Yep.
Especially in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
When you telling us you don't have money for us, you're closing our schools, but yet the electricity and everything gets turned back on for the migrants, and you finding money for them and you're canceling our programs because the Democrats felt, hey, we got the black vote, so it don't make a difference.
Yep.
So a lot of the things you are saying, especially a lot of the older Democrats, they don't want to hear it.
Nope.
Because a lot of the older Democrats, when I worked at the polling place years ago, I would hear them say to each other, well, I'm just voting straight Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood that logic because every Democrat is not the person for the job. And I think that's what happened in a lot of African-American communities where we were so stuck on the Democratic ballot that we could have had people in here, and I'm going to just go with something local. Judge Grimes. I think Judge Grimes would have made a great mayor, and he ran for mayor when I still lived here, and I voted for him. But you had people that said, well, I'm not voting for him because he's a Republican. And I think that's what we get messed up at. It's time to get off of this dedication to the Democratic Party because we still fight for the same things we were fighting for 50 years ago.
Yep. Thank you for your call, brother.
Day,
it's all good. He hit the head. He hit the nail right on the head right there. I forgot to bring up that very thing right there. Brandon Johnson is in legitimate trouble. Let me just say this. Brandon Johnson in Chicago, that brother, they just rejected his tax cuts too. I mean, his tax raise, I'm sorry. Him trying to raise taxes unanimously. You know how hard it is to get all those people to vote unanimously in Chicago? They rejected his tax increase unanimously. He is in trouble. I don't think he will run again. He better not run again. He will get embarrassed if he runs again. He's going to get, and we've seen in San Francisco and Oakland, they just replaced their two mayors, London Breed and Shang Thao. Those two women, one black woman, one Asian woman, they got both of them to push the sort of what is called woke. I hate calling it that because when I was growing up, woke was our word for people who are revolutionaries, for radicals. Now it's political correctness, which is really what it is, but they got London Breed and they got Shang Thao to push the political correctness agendas, and people are sick of it. They're seeing homeless people stacking up, but yet billions keep going to Ukraine. Just recently, Joe Biden sent some more money to Ukraine, sent some more money to Israel, more weapons, more all that. All that could be used to build houses, to give shelter for homeless people, all that stuff. And the caller was talking about those people in Chicago really mad about the migrants. They literally kicked kids out of the schools in Chicago so that they could put migrants in them. I swear to God, I'm not making that up. They closed schools and put migrants in the schools that the kids are supposed to be at. That's insane. That's literal insanity. They have to be doing this on purpose. I've showed you guys before what Dick Durbin said, the senator from Chicago, from Illinois over there. He said literally, we're not making the quotas for the military, and so we got to bring these immigrants in here so somebody will come in here and fight our wars, because Americans ain't falling for the war complex nonsense anymore. That's really what it's been about, folks. That's really what it's been about. They want to maintain the military-industrial complex, and they want to lower wages for workers. They don't want workers to get a raise, all these billionaires. And they know that Americans have been striking all over the country for the last 3 or 4 years. There have been strikes everywhere because workers are demanding better pay. So you bring all these immigrants here from third world countries who are just happy to be here. You can hire them at lower wages. keep workers from having to get raises. I mean, it really is pernicious. And somebody said this to me online not too long ago, and it was really poignant. He said, in the 1860s, the Democrats argued that we couldn't end slavery because it would make cotton too expensive. Now, Democrats argue that we can't get rid of illegal immigrants because it would make vegetables too expensive. Woo! All righty then. But a big part of the reason for the implosion of the liberal elites, the Democrats, is, the media is irrelevant. I talked about this last week. The mainstream corporate liberal media is mostly irrelevant now. News ratings have fallen in the toilet for MSNBC and CNN. MSNBC's ratings were down after the election 54%. Good God. CNN's down 36%. Damn. Yes. Yes. Man, that is so really the one thing that will possibly work out well for them, because they can do another 4 years of adversarial journalism to Donald Trump. Now, the irony is the media is always supposed to be adversarial. It's just the media chooses not to be adversarial when a Democrat's in office, which is why you get so many people going around saying, Barack Obama didn't have any scandals when he was in office. Yeah, of course he didn't, because the media didn't talk about him dropping more bombs than George W. Bush did, bombing 7 countries at once, killing the wrong people 90% of the times with his drone strikes. Stanford University did the study on that. He killed the wrong people 90% of the time. So that's a scandal. Destroying the African country with the highest living standard and bringing slavery back, chattel slavery back to Africa, I would say it's pretty scandalous. But of course, the corporate media did not cover it that way. So you get people saying, well, oh my God, oh, he had no scandals. There were no scandals. Yeah, the View didn't talk about it. The media didn't talk about it. I was talking about it. Me and Jonathan used to talk about this stuff when he was at the end of his presidency, when I first started here. But most other corporate media wouldn't talk about this stuff, and that's why people believe that. And same thing with Joe Biden. The media literally covered up his son's laptop that talked about all the corrupt business deals they were doing with Ukraine and China and Russia and all this other stuff. Talked about 10% for the big guy. Him putting his father on the phone with his business partners and all that other stuff, and just letting them sit in so that they knew that he could have access to his father. The sexual assault allegations, the sexual harassment allegations, pretty much everything you can say about Donald Trump, you can say about Joe Biden. Or Bill Clinton. Just take your pick. But the corporate media covers it up. And this is why people don't respect the media anymore. This is why nobody trusts the media. And this is why, at first it was just conservatives. It was right-wing conservatives. They said the media is liberal. We don't trust the media. But now we're in a world where independents and leftists, like myself, we all hate the media too. The only people, so nobody's really watching it except for scared older people and uppity elites, cultural elites. And this is why you see somebody like Jimmy Kimmel, he's crying. It was a bad day for... Dude, come on. Come on, guy. Food insecurity skyrocketed the last 3 years. Poverty skyrocketed the last 3 years. People's cities are being overrun by illegal immigrants. We're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel and all this other place. Dude, why weren't you crying then? The American people were, but it didn't touch you. Some more fallout from the Trumpocalypse is that Kamala Harris is her campaign is officially broke. which is shocking. She raised $1 billion, over $1 billion. And now they have no money. Donald Trump only raised a fraction of that. So now she's broke. Less than a week since she's conceded, they've run out of money, and they're still asking people for more money. So if you wanted Kamala's donors, or if you donated to her campaign, or you supported, or you're one of the Democrats, I'm sure they've been hitting you up for money, because they're sending text. Hi team, it's Kamala. The election isn't what we wanted, but I will never give up the fight. And now there's still a number of critical races around the country that are either too close to call or within the margin of recount or certain legal challenges. So now she's just lying to her base, trying to pretend like she's going to call for some sort of recount. Based on filings, she's disclosed spending $880 million by mid-October. $880 million. Imagine that. Donald Trump only spent $354 million. I know I'm being a little flippant here about $354 million. Any of us would love to have $354 million, okay? But in comparison to the $880 million, which is over twice as much, and for the results she got, good God. From July 22nd to Election Day, Harris and her committees outspent Trump and his backers on advertising by a margin of $654 million to $378 million. So again, almost twice as much. They also dwarfed Donald Trump's campaign when it came to payroll. Kamala Harris spent $56.6 million on her staff. You want to know how much Donald Trump spent on his staff, a much smaller staff? $9 million. Donald Trump spent $9 million on a much smaller team. Kamala spent $60 million to get humiliated in a blowout. Wow. The filings also show that she spent $12.8 million on political, digital, and media consultants, which is a big part of the Democrats' problem. The sort of the consultant class, the professional managerial class, all these elites who are telling these people what they want to hear. One of the firms that scored a sizable payday at $3.9 million was Village Marketing Agency, which reportedly worked to garner support for Harris from thousands of social media influencers in an effort to appeal to young people. They spent $15 million on campaign rallies, on events. They spent all this money getting Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Christina Aguilera, Ricky Martin, Beyonce, Eminem. They paid Eminem $1 million to show up. They paid, I think they said they paid Beyonce $5 million, if I'm not mistaken. She paid $1 million to Oprah, to Harpo, the production company of Oprah Winfrey. She spent over 6 figures to build the set for her appearance on a podcast, a raunchy women-oriented podcast called Call Her Daddy. She spent 6 figures, $100,000 or more, to just build a set so she could do an interview with a podcaster. Look, I didn't vote for the lady. Y'all know I'm independent. I vote third party. I don't support any of these people. But even if I did vote for her and she called, coming to talk to me about, hey, come and donate some more to my campaign after these results, whoo, I'd have to put the Harris campaign on I'd have to label them as spam. They'd be labeled spam from here on out. before we go to a break, I really want you guys to listen to my guy. I talk about him a lot on this show. The funky academic, Irmio Frimpong. He had a lot to say about why Donald Trump won, that the corporate media isn't going to talk about. But to me, I think he gets a lot right here in this segment. So we'll be right back after these. We're going to hear the funky academic, and then we'll be back to talk about the swamp, Trump swamp, that he brought with him to Washington, D.C.
Why the poor's voted for Trump. People like, there's the CNN polls will tell you that the poor's voted for Trump because, the CNN poll will tell you that the poor's voted for Trump. The working class and the poor, people who make under $100,000 a year, which is a lot of people, right? They voted for Trump. It wasn't a lot, wasn't by a lot, but they voted for Trump. And what does it mean that they voted for Trump? Do they mean that they think Trump is better for the economy? No. It's not necessarily the case that the poor and the working class people voted for Trump because of the economy. It's quite possible they thought that Trump would secure a government that allowed them the freedom to determine their own life without having to use their money to protect them against liberal excesses. You have to understand that if you make under $100,000 a year, you don't have the excess money to necessarily send your kid to private school. That means, if there is a liberal agenda of turning your kids gay or trans, you're going to have to send them to government school anyway. You don't have the money for all of these enrichment activities. You don't have the discretion to protect yourself as a prophylactic against cultural liberalism. And cultural liberalism, make no mistake, cultural liberalism wants you to get a divorce. Cultural liberalism wants your son to feel bad about becoming a man. Cultural liberalism wants your daughter to be able to get birth control without talking to you first. I ran into a parent who found out their daughter was on birth control because of birth, I do not, because their boyfriend's parent got the birth control for them or hooked it up so that the daughter got the prescription. That nonsense needs to go away. So cultural liberalism wants to market certain lifestyles to your children that you don't have the resources to defend against. So you need a government to protect you from cultural liberalism, right? So it's not necessarily that the poor's, the people making under $50,000, and then again, people making under $100,000, think that Trump is going to do better for them economically. They think that Trump is going to provide the government prophylactic against cultural liberalism. And that is a different argument from the idea that they're just economic populists and they think that Trump will give them money. Because what do people over $100,000 spend their money on? Usually being able to take their cultural liberalism a la carte. Right? They can send their kids to Catholic school, but still be cosmopolitan about borders. They can pick and choose. They can have a gay kid but not trans, and they can get into this right suburb that they want to with the kids of their own milieu, and they can pay for all of these other things that people who make $50,000 and under $100,000 can't. They can pick and choose what forms of liberal excesses that their children are exposed to. Whereas people who make under $50,000, under $100,000 can't pick and choose. They got to deal with the world as it is. So they don't want a world with legalized drugs where everything smells like pot. They don't.